Welcome to the Limit Free Life Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. I bring you tips, advice, and guest stories about creating work you love. Whatever type of career or business you have or want, I want to help you find more meaning, money, and happiness. Now we are live from Hollywood. Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to Wednesday's Limit Free Life Show. We are here in beautiful Burbank, actually. We're broadcasting from ubngo.com, also from my Facebook page, Limit Free Life Facebook page. And I have a fantastic guest today. I can't wait to get started because whether you're a career transitioner, a business owner, whatever you're doing for your profession, I think you're going to gain so much from my guest today, Mary Pat Knight. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce her because she has just a wealth of wonderful information. She's going to share with us her transformations, her transitions, and some really great information on leadership, communication, and emotional intelligence, which is a really wonderful topic. And I think if you work with people, which I don't think we can avoid that very easily, you're going to gain a lot from this conversation. So let me go ahead and give you some background on Mary Pat before we get into our conversation. Mary Pat Knight is known as a transformation strategist, providing business coaching, corporate training, and organizational consulting through human resource leadership. Her more than 30-year career has spanned marketing operations, strategic planning, human resources, training development, and executive coaching. As the Chief Operating Officer for Food for Thought Enterprises, Inc., Mary Pat led the company's growth, transformation of the culture, and upgraded the business readiness of the organization. She directed the marketing at a time of quantum growth for Let Us Entertain You Enterprises, a major Midwest restaurant organization. She also spearheaded the creation of the marketing arm and the corporate reorganization as an executive of the National Restaurant Association's Educational Foundation. At First Hospitality Group, a leading hotel management firm in the Midwest, she held the title of Senior VP, People Services, and was responsible for the oversight of all engagement, culture, and people initiatives, from HR general efforts to the coaching and training designed to create conscious leaders ready to move vision into action for results. Mary Pat has also served as Vice President of People Development and Marketing for Oak Park-based Flat Top Grill. Now, as the CEO of Leaders Inspired, Mary Pat has provided corporate and executive consultation and mentoring and is dedicated to supporting powerful life and business transformation. She believes people must have satisfying personal and professional lives, which is achieved through the alchemy of her clients' desire and mutual commitment to the work. She helps leaders learn how to express themselves authentically, work from a place of courage, and find an inner, unshakable belief in themselves. She teaches others how to lead both personally and professionally in integrity and free of compromise. Her mission is to inspire business transformation and develop solid leadership, remembering that when you're inspired in the workplace, you inspire the world. So, Mary Pat, welcome. Well, thank you so much for being here. You're Zooming in today from Chicago. And so we are thrilled to have you. And I think we should just jump in. Let's talk a little about your background, because I found it really interesting, the transitions you've made. And I'd love for you to tell people about how you were able to go from corporate to entrepreneurship and actually back again, which is something people don't necessarily think they can do that easily.
Yeah, I've done it a couple times.
Okay.
Let's go way back. This was actually never an early vision of mine to do this, except that I think I was born, I emerged from the womb intensely interested in other people and what made them tick. And my first career was in the theater.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it well prepared me for the work that I'm doing right now, because frankly, you can't be good on the stage unless you are a complete study of human nature and bring that to life in front of your audience. Okay. So my early training well prepared me for everything that I'm doing right now. But, along the way, I realized that the kind of life that I wanted to live, I didn't know that the theater was going to do it for me.
Yeah.
I made a transition into business, and really, I look at my career as very charmed. I was transitioning from the life of an actress into theater marketing and operations.
Okay.
And I didn't know what I was doing at all. So I was hired as the director of advertising way back in the day, even before we had computers that allowed us to plan any of this stuff. And I knew I had a budget to spend. So I called up every place that I might possibly buy media. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. Would you teach me? And an entire community taught me.
Oh,
and
I love that.
It's fantastic. And so, I mean, an early lesson for me is ask for the support that you need, and don't be surprised because it will be there for you. So, I proceeded on from there. I never, ever went back to the theater as a performer after that. But I did very, very quickly, because I like a little adventure, and maybe I'm too risky for my own good sometimes. I started my first business when I was I was in my late 20s, and I took the advertising and promotional knowledge that I had learned, and I began to offer that to other what we call off-loop theater groups. And anyone who's from Chicago will understand that the loop is the big Broadway stuff that comes in. Off-loop is everything else.
Okay.
So I did. So I got a lot of stuff. I got a lot of clients. But what I realized in that first business, so I mean, there's kind of a theme to this: what I learned, what I gained, what I go to next.
Okay.
What I learned is that I was really good at advertising, and I was really good at relationship building, and I was really good at planning media, but I stunk as a business owner. I was really bad as a business owner. And so I was recruited by Let Us Entertain You, which is an iconic restaurant group here in the Midwest.
Yeah, great name, by the way. I've never heard of them, but Lettuce is Lettuce.
That's what it is, right. And so I joined them. They really took a chance on me as their director of marketing at a time of quantum growth for the company. So they went from maybe a dozen to 3 dozen restaurants in the period of time that I was there.
Wow.
I learned at the feet of the masters. And from there kind of progressed, got married, started to have children, found myself at the National Restaurant Association, where by the fact that my 3rd child would not sleep through the night, I had to do something different than go downtown to a corporate job every day. So I made my second leap of faith into entrepreneurialism. And I took my marketing knowledge, I combined it with my theater knowledge, and I began to do human development training and workshops, along with strategic planning. And I partnered up with some other great people, and I said, will you help me? And they helped me. So I got help all the way along the way. So you're seeing the pattern of ask for help, it will come to you. And then other things in my life happened. I had a big transition, which I'm sure many who are watching may have experienced in their life, is that I got divorced. And or I was in the process of getting divorced. I realized that was what was going to happen to me. So I went back into corporate America for good reasons, for security reasons. And I went from one company to another, where I ended up being the chief operating officer. And then it was several years after my divorce. I thought I was a smarty.
You sound like a smarty. Yeah.
And I'm ready to do this again.
Okay.
And so I left my corporate job, and do you remember 2008, 2009?
I remember it very well because we sold a business in 2008 and tried to start another in 2009. So
we were both, because we both tried to start a business in 2009. No, frankly, though, Michelle, my head wasn't in the game. I wasn't prepared. I did not have a strategic plan. I really leapt. I took a leap, not really even a leap of faith, kind of a leap of maybe ego. Leap of ego. And I'm sure that others have done that as well. So the leap of ego took me into another consulting adventure that I was ill prepared for, both mentally and spiritually, and certainly economically. So I wiped out. So a big transition is I wiped out. And I mean, I wiped out. Bankruptcy, foreclosure, everything.
Wow.
And in that, a series of circumstances, luck, if you would call it, led me into another corporate job, which for 6.5 years prior to this now successful entrepreneurial launch, really held me steady, gave me the wherewithal to, after, like Phoenix rising from the ashes, after the ashes of that, debacle,
Right.
really able to put my three kids through private college. I mean, on my
Nice.
own dime,
Yeah.
uh,
Wonderful.
and strengthened me. And here I am now. And I hope I didn't talk your ear off, but that's my circuitous in and out journey of corporate to entrepreneur, back to corporate, back to entrepreneur, and now finally in this last phase of my career. I'm not looking back. I'm in my life's work. I'm in my mission, and I'm really dedicating the rest of my life to the work that I'm doing right now.
That's fantastic. And I really love that story because I don't think people realize, a lot of people, when they're getting ready, they want to leave corporate, they want to become an entrepreneur, but they feel as if once they leave, they can't go back. And so I love that you've just proven to people that you can, and you can bounce back and forth as your life might require you to. So I think it's great for people to see that those two areas, corporate and entrepreneurship, are not, there's not the big division that people might think there is.
And I also think that you bring that it's actually, I know we've all seen these memes on social media where entrepreneurialism is not a straight line. It is, jigs and jags and knots and all kinds of, circuitous motions. And
Right.
frankly, every time that I invited myself back into the corporate environment, one, I elevated in leadership, which allowed me to develop more leaders underneath me. And it also, every time I went back, I learned something new that I get to apply now.
Right.
So,
Right. And I don't know how you brought this to people when you tried to go back into corporate, but I believe you learned so much from entrepreneurship that you can take back into the next phase of your corporate career. So do you want to just tell people a little about the approach you use? Because people are always looking, well, what do I say? If I want to go back and, I don't want to tell them that I failed at what I was doing or whatever it is. But I think there's value in the honesty of what you did and also the things that you learned from that move.
Yeah, I think actually one of the reasons I started doing this work years ago is that I just a little story, and I'll come back to answer your questions. I was working with a group of women, and this was at back, like I think I was at the Restaurant Association, and they were great women. They were spicy, saucy women, and just really take the world by storm women, until they had to present in front of the men in the boardroom. And then all of a sudden, these women would show up, and these masks went up on their face, and I'd be like, "Where are my sexy, saucy women? Where are they? They're wearing a mask. I can't see them anymore." And I was like, "There's something really wrong about this. There's something weird where we have to go into an environment and throw a mask of protection on, and not be ourselves, and not be authentic, and not bring the juice of our, passion into what we're doing for whatever." Fear of judgment or whatever society says should be happening for us. So I think actually knowing that and realizing I wanted to work with people to not do that has allowed me to be just really truthful in my communication. I mean, kind, but super truthful.
Right.
So, for instance, this last time when I went back into the hotel company, I was really truthful. I said 2010 was not kind to me. And but I sure learned these, and this is what I can bring to your company. And that's what they were looking for.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think that's important for people to hear. Okay, so let's talk about some of what you're doing now. You want to tell us more about the company that you have presently?
Well, I'm having fun. That's all I can tell you.
Big part of the goal: fun, fulfillment, financial rewards. Those are my three.
I wrote down. You said at the very beginning, "I'm here to support you to do the work you love." And life is really, really short. I mean, I knew when I was at the hotel company. One of the things that was lovely for me is that I had already begun this body of work. That I'm doing right now, and I was able to actually bring it into the hotel company. And I trained through the workshops that I do easily 250 people inside that company. So the benefit for them is they were developing conscious leaders, and the benefit for me is I was really, really honing my craft. And again, it was a proprietary product that I brought to them and I offered to them, and I knew I was going to take it with me when I left. So what I do is I have a signature program called Leadership Mastery, and that is really where the body of all of my work comes out of. And what it is, it's a program designed to build a series of repeatable skills over time to strengthen your leadership development and your emotional intelligence acumen.
Okay.
So we look at things like we start at the beginning, and so just practically, it's it can be delivered in an executive retreat, it can be delivered as a virtual workshop, and the way that it has worked primarily and most effectively, it's initially a series of 6 workshops over a 6-month period of time. So I go in, I work with the CEO and their teams, or I work with the business leader and their team, and anywhere from 8 to 25 people, month after month after month, we are working together to really pull whatever is beautiful about your own personal leadership up and out of you, so that you can have a greater impact on your team.
Okay. Okay, great. When sometimes when we talk about leadership, people don't always know, am I a leader, or am I in a leadership role? And so who is this for?
Well, I work in business environments because I have a philosophy, especially with the corporate background that I have. Michelle, I feel really strongly about this, that you work, if you're in a corporate environment, you are, lucky if you're a 40-hour per week.
Right.
You're probably a 50 and maybe even a 60-hour per week. And how much time does that leave you in your life outside of work to do discretionary personal development?
Right.
Doesn't leave you much.
Not much.
So I am committed to the fact that personal development that is appreciated, enjoyed, and learned inside a corporate environment is going to spread out to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And so that's really my mission and my purpose is, let's get inside the corporations, which I'll tell you, there's an emergence of healthy corporations right now, but there are an awful lot of corporations out there that are not healthy at all.
Right.
And the health of the corporation is dependent upon the health of the leader. So if I can get in there and work with the business leaders, that's where I like to start.
Okay.
So that's why sometimes we start with an executive retreat, because everyone's super busy, and at least the seeds are planted. At least the concepts are developed. But then I work with their teams. So the teams that are supposed to be delivering results, being accountable, supporting each other, communicating with each other. That's the sweet spot of all of this is that the fact that the team gets vulnerable and transparent with each other. Now, I don't want to scare anyone, because vulnerability is a strength. Vulnerability is a strength. But that they get vulnerable and transparent, and they grow together, and they see where some of their mindset or some of their behaviors are not serving them anymore, and they shift together. It's really incredible to watch that. So, long answer to your short question is, it's really for business teams. I work individually with executives and key employees inside organizations, but it's really the teams. And many times, depending on the size of the organization, after I work with the level 1 leaders, I end up with level 2 and level 3 leaders too, because they want the concepts and the behaviors and the shifts to happen throughout the company.
Okay, great. So, so when you work with teams, do you want to just tell us a little about the process? I mean, where is the value? What are they going to end up with after they've gone through some of your program?
Well, the pain points they get addressed, and these will be familiar pain points to you. So, I've got a lot of drama in my workplace.
Yeah.
I've got finger pointing, and I've got blaming, and I have people making excuses for not delivering the results that I've asked them to deliver.
Okay.
I'm not so sure that I'm a great communicator, so maybe they don't really know what to expect from me. Yeah. I have reached the top of my skill set in terms of communication, and I don't know where else to go. Okay. I'm seeing stuff like, I can't hold anyone accountable. Why am I the only one who's doing all of the work? So these are the kind of pain things there. And then I also hear on the other side, I am so deeply committed to my people being all that they can be. I just want to give them the next leg up.
Nice.
Okay. So the result of this is a deep personal dive, and it's done in a way. So I think the gift that I bring to this, and I'll be so bold as to say the gift that I bring to this, because I think it's kind of come from above. The universe has, granted me this gift, is that I have as much corporate experience as I have.
Right, right.
And so I can go into an environment and I can deliver transformational processes and transformational deep leadership dives inside of you, but I can do it in a way that's inviting, because it's going to be in language that you understand.
Okay.
Right. So part of it is, when I try to describe this at first, it's like woo woo. Oh, we're going to do woo woo stuff, and there's nothing woo woo about this. It is so darn practical.
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah.
You know this. I mean, you know this about yourself as well. I mean, you've been in and out of and supporting some corporate environments in your life as well. And, people run away and are suspicious when you're, when you start talking that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm laughing, but only because you just hear that term a lot, and people in the corporate space, I think, really they're looking for practical, and I think their eyes light up sometimes when you bring up some of the woo woo in the trainings, but if you lead with that, you might be in trouble.
You're going to be invited to the door.
Yeah.
So you asked, what is the result of this? So there's several results. First of all, there is generally a financial result. There's generally an improvement, and I would say 9 out of 10 of the groups that I work with see a financial or a result, a metric. Groups of groups improve because they're rowing towards the same shore together.
Yeah.
So this is a direct result of that. When the leader is clear and kind and factual and neutral, the leader sets a tone for the environment, which people aren't scared anymore, so they're able to produce their best results.
Right.
I also, one of the areas, and I guess I don't talk about it that often, but I think it's really important, is I took a scan of my clients over both of the last entrepreneurial journeys that I've been on, and better than 50% of my clients are family-owned.
Interesting. Okay.
So one of the interesting impacts is the reduction of thinking that you're working with your 12-year-old sister when you're really working with your 50-year-old business partner.
Yeah.
So to be able to level set those relationships so that the family relationships are honored outside of the business and the business relationships are heightened inside of the business is a huge, huge benefit. And I think overall you have peace of mind and people who feel empowered. And many of my clients right now, they'll go back and they're teaching it to their teams. I mean, they've taken it, and I say take the concepts and teach them.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, those are some of the benefits.
Yeah.
Financial share, peace of mind, results, and the leader finally feeling like maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. And everyone going to work being more engaged and working together and enjoying their work experience, I would imagine. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for the most part. When you look at it, there's a couple of ways that it has to be approached, though. And I think, again, I think this is, nothing is new. I mean, we're all really putting our own special sauce on concepts that have been taught since biblical days, if you want to take it far back. So the way that I approach this is awareness and mindset have to come before skill building. Skill building, you're going to teach someone how the mechanics of offering feedback, but if they haven't addressed the fact that they are conflict adverse and that makes them harsh delivering feedback,
right.
So we deal with mindset first and peeling apart behaviors that don't work for you anymore. And then we move into the skill building, the actual communication and accountability and agreement skill building, negotiating skill building, until then we finally finish it up with, what is your promise to the world, which is what can we do to get you working more and more in the work you love, much like you do with, the folks who are watching here every week that they're watching you, and in the work that you do is how do we get you into the work you love so that you show up every day joyful and ready to go.
Right. And, I love what you're saying about mindset, because whether it's money or work or anything, relationships, I mean, your mindset has to come first. And so I think that is so important for people to understand. Otherwise, you're just kind of beating your head against a wall if you're not changing your mindset first and then working on the new practical steps.
You actually know a lot about this. So Michelle, obviously I know you outside of this radio show arena here, and you're actually quite masterful in mindset work.
Thank you.
So I think, I'm preaching to the choir when I'm talking to you. You absolutely know that has to precede some other work that could be done. Even if you think about it, I think about my athletic trainer, my trainer. He works as much on my mindset as he does on me being able to do a good lift.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I find it really interesting that if you've been involved in sports, you've gotten some training on mindset. But I know part of the reason I did get into this whole aspect of it is because 15 years in corporate and, during the time I was getting my MBA and everything else, that word never came up. I mean, it didn't exist. So I found it fascinating when I got into coaching how critical it is. And then you look at all these, you look back at all the issues that were going on and the drama and everything else, or the difficulties with your boss. I mean, understanding mindset and how to shift perspective and how to see things differently would have changed all that. But, at the time I had no clue, and it was never talked about. Nobody had a clue.
And that's that mask that I'm talking to you about, because as long as I'm invulnerable, as long as I have that protection on around me, I never have to admit that maybe my mindset is off. Maybe I need to adjust some behavior, because I could just plow through with my protection on.
Right.
But things are shifting. You're seeing it in your clients as well. Things are really, really shifting. The world is tough right now, and I think people are really looking for meaning and connection, and and mindset's all part of that.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was talking to a client yesterday, and she is now transitioning and looking for new work, and had been in the same position, high level position for 24 years. And so we were talking about something, and she was telling me about the best boss that she ever had, who she's still in contact with. And some of the things that he used to tell her when she was nervous about something or going into, do some presentation or sales calls or whatever. And what he would say to her was so, almost spiritual, really, and very, very personal development oriented and much about mindset. And she, that did everything for her to calm her down and allow her to go and do an excellent job at what she was doing. But, she really respected him, and he was a wonderful leader, obviously, but he was pulling a lot into his leadership style that was not necessarily, the standard what you learn in MBA school kind of thing. So I thought that was interesting.
I love that man, because he's singing my song.
Yeah. So, okay, let's get back to, before we got on the show, we talked a little bit about a few things that we wanted to get a little more precise on. I actually want to go back to the mindset thing toward the end, because I do like to talk a little about money mindset, and I want to talk about your money mindset as you were making those transitions. But I also want to make sure we touch on communication, accountability, and feedback, which are some skills that we were discussing before the show.
Yeah. Well, that's like the triple threat, isn't it? Communication. But then you gotta add listening in the center. Okay. So listening is the thing that holds it all together. Okay. So from a communication perspective, one of the things that I feel strongly about, and I work on with my clients, is a lot of times we come up, and especially if we have titles and we're given positions of authority, and we have a point of view that you need to adjust your communication style to meet my needs, because I'm a boss and I'm getting things done. And my clients learn quickly that that's really backwards. Okay. So communication is circular, and so my responsibility is not just to open my mouth and tell and say. My responsibility is to make sure that the communication connects with you, because communication for its own sake is just noise in the world, and we've just got enough of that.
There's a lot of that. Okay.
From a communication perspective, don't you find this? You do this. You innately do this as a coach. You have to listen at a level that you may have never learned how to do before.
Right.
And so you work on that. And I know you work on that with your clients as well.
Mm-hmm.
Really listen at a very deep level and understand that not everyone is going to hear your message
Right.
in the way you intend it.
Right.
So you give yourself a leg up by really picking up on some clues about how, how someone might be wired, or how, how they're programmed to receive information,
Right.
and adjust your style. I mean,
Yeah.
just adjust your style. I mean,
Yeah.
that's as simple as it is. Adjust your style. And which means if someone is asking a lot of why questions, you know that they want detail.
Right. Right.
You talk detail. If someone is, talks as fast as I do, yeah, I want a bottom line. So
yeah.
you adjust your style. So communication is really important. And to remember, and I've always remembered this, and this was a lesson I got, I think, back in the 80s. Communication is circular. And it actually might have come from theater school as well, because get up, the audience needs to receive and send it back to you.
Yeah.
I guess it's not like love, huh?
Yeah, it's true. And I think, you can make kind of a game out of it. I mean, I actually enjoy kind of the strategic part of talking to someone and sort of trying to figure out what communication style is going to work best and keep them engaged. And so you are kind of listening for these cues and testing things out, but it doesn't have to be daunting. It's kind of fun, actually.
It is actually. I think it's like, a game in a good way.
Yeah,
not a game,
exactly. Yeah, no, it's not a manipulation. It's just a way to try to, make sure that person can hear you.
And I always say it's not about manipulation. I'm glad you used that word. It's about connecting and being in relationship.
Right. Right.
That's what it's about. And again, listening is at the center of that. And a lot of times we think that we're good listeners, but did any of us ever get listening training when we were in school?
No, I think girls, get some training early on because they usually have, best friends. And if you're not listening properly, the best friend gets upset. And so I think we grow up kind of learning a little about that. I'm not sure about guys.
Yeah, I don't know whether I've never been a guy, so I don't know. But so listening, a lot of times, if we really take stock of our listening, we are surprised at how much assumption or opinion or judgment or waiting to give you the response or the advice is part of it. I know that you know this, because early on in coaching, I'm the oldest Irish Catholic daughter, so I'm like a bossy pants. So my early coaching was about advice giving until I really learned that there's no advice giving at all. There is listening and reflecting and supporting that other person to find their answers. So
right.
All my thoughts on communication. What about you? What works for you in communication? What's, because that's at the hallmark of everything that you do as well.
Well, I love questions. Questions have become, my favorite way to have a discussion, is to find that perfect question that just, suddenly creates a great conversation and some enlightenment. But yeah, absolutely. And I do enjoy the fact that you communicate differently with different people, and that's part of getting to know them. And so it's interesting. I'm genuinely curious about people and their stories and their troubles and their successes. And so, I enjoy having a conversation. I think that helps a lot, actually.
Yeah, you used the perfect word just now, curious. Curious. And I think if you're going to be a solid, heart-based leader, curiosity is, one of the aces that you hold in your pocket. It's curious about people.
Right. And I think when people really aren't curious, and they just, they're asking questions just for their own, they have their own agenda. You can tell pretty quickly. So what?
We're talking about feedback.
I was I'm dying to hear about feedback, because I'll tell you, I work with, I loved what you said about assumptions too, because particularly with small business owners, practice owners, people who have a few employees, not a big team, they tend to, I think, what my experience has been, I've seen them make a lot of assumptions about, how much people know about their roles, how strange assumptions to me, like people just should know how to do their job and don't need any training or don't need any accountability or feedback. And I find that sometimes the entrepreneurs who are busy and they've got a lot of, different roles in their companies, they tend, the whole idea of giving feedback is something that they don't find, they either don't like or they don't do it well. So I would love to talk about feedback. I'm kind of talking too long.
It's really important, and there's we do shy away from it because for some reason feedback has been equated with conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're programmed to be liked, you don't want to go into conflict. If you're programmed to want to make everyone feel okay and safe, you're not going to like conflict.
Right.
And so feedback is equated to conflict. You're not going to be very good at it because it won't feel good to you.
Right.
So you either run away from it or you'll be very, very harsh about it, so that you just get it done. It'll be mean to you. So,
right.
I think if we take a step back and know that feedback is just information, and I can't control how the other person is going to react or respond. I can't control that.
Mm-hmm.
Can influence it through the way that I offer my observations. So I've always said this, that feedback is a gift. And feedback is a gift no matter how it's wrapped. And 6 out of 10 times it's wrapped in a crappy package. It's wrapped in a not so good package.
Yeah.
Just because of the skill of the person offering the feedback is not so strong.
Right.
Look at feedback anyway, because it's just information. And if it's something that's going to support you to be better, more sure, get a better result, okay.
Right.
And then, from a receiving perspective, the thing that we need to check when we're receiving feedback, no matter how it's delivered to us, is the defensiveness of wanting to either make excuses or deny it.
Yeah.
And again, just information, isn't it?
Well, that's a mindset in itself, that it's just information, and to just, Yeah.
And so those who are offering feedback, again, if you're conflict adverse, you need to put some framework around it that makes it safe for you to offer the feedback as well. So the framework around it is always make the person feel that you care. It has to be a part of it. You have to make sure that they know that you care, because you're offering feedback because you care, because it's in the spirit of improvement. You see something that with a little tweak or with a change, or you see something that was done that could be dangerous or is really against standards or the results that you're looking for, it's better that the person knows so they can make their own personal choice about changing it. So if I approach this, that behavior is factual, observable, changeable, and dynamic, my feedback is always about specific behavior.
Okay.
Right. It's not about your personality. Right. I'm not coming up and saying, you're a bad person. That's my feedback.
Right.
The choice that you made to take this action is something I need to talk with you about, because it's not having the intended result.
Oh, I love that. That's something people should write down. That's good for anything. Kids, coworkers.
My favorite word is impact, then, because every it's the chain reaction. I can't remember what the phrase is, but every behavior has the next impact or the next consequence. So every behavior, it's a chain reaction. That's just behavior, a reaction, a behavior, a response, a behavior, a this. So there's always an impact to the behavior. So if the behavior is positive behavior that's results driven, and you're hitting the mark, then the feedback you're offering is, that's really good behavior. Keep it up. The business impact is this positive impact.
Right.
However, if you're not meeting the results or the standards are derelict in some way, then you have to understand that the business impact is not so positive. One, maybe my ability to trust you has been diminished, or maybe, the team needs a stronger and swifter process from you because people need to catch up. Or, maybe you never learned this, but the business impact, because you didn't learn it, is that it's having this effect on the business. And again, it's really important to not shame the person when you're doing it.
Yeah, very important. Okay.
And then the final part of it is, and this is a dialogue. So see, you're taking the onus off of you. I'm seeing something, I'm bringing it to your attention. It's having a business impact that I need you to be aware of. And, you're an adult. Let's figure out a way that you can change it.
Okay.
End of story. Do you see? That's like simple. That's a simple,
and
non-emotional way to do it.
And emotionally, you're keeping it fairly neutral. Is that, I'm picking up on that from what you're saying. I'm assuming that's intentional.
Factual, direct, neutral, and kind. That's what I
Okay.
say. Factual, direct, neutral, and kind.
Okay.
People need to know where
Love
they
that.
stand. And at the end of it, you just thank them for being open to the conversation, and you're creating some safety for them to make the changes that they want to make.
Very nice.
And
Yeah.
if you run up to someone and they're like, "Wah," and they're like getting defensive, and it's a big drama.
Right.
You can only offer what you can offer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, and that's kind of leading us into emotional intelligence, and we don't have that much time left, so I'm going to have to.
Oh my gosh, look what time it is!
I know, it's insane.
Let's get the commercials on.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna add a couple of minutes toward the end, but I still want to jump in and make sure that we get some of your insight around that, and frankly, a definition for people as well as to what emotional intelligence is.
So I know we talked about this prior to the show, that words are bandied about all the time. And we talk about get support. What does support look like? Support,
Right.
support, support. So we talked about that. And emotional intelligence, or EQ, is another of those words. It has a very, very simple definition, and it takes some skill to execute it. So very, very simply, I mean, go do your research. Daniel Goleman is the father, one of the fathers of this. And I still think he's got the simplest way of looking at it. And very simply, when you take a look at emotional intelligence, it's really understanding that I have emotions, and I recognize and honor emotions. Okay. And so I laugh when people say emotions don't belong in the workplace, right, because we're human beings and we're bringing ourselves to the workplace. We have emotions. So, so to recognize when I'm angry, or recognize when I'm sad, or recognize when I'm joyful, I know that I have emotions. And my job as a leader is to learn how to manage those emotions and very simply respond rather than react.
Right. Okay.
Respond to the emotions. So from the one side, I've got emotions and I have to manage them. On the other side, as a human being, you have emotions too. Surprise. You have emotions too. And because you have emotions, I can't control I can't control your emotions. I can support you to become aware of them and manage the relationship, or influence the relationship through my own management, through my coaching, through my questions, through my emotional support of you. Not caretaking, because caretaking is dysfunction. Through my emotional awareness of you and my contribution to the relationship. So I have emotions, you have emotions. I have to manage my emotions, and I need to support the relationship.
Okay. So how does that play out at work? I mean, if you're trying to be a better leader and you have a somewhat dysfunctional team, how do you bring that in and improve the group with that?
Well, I take them through a couple processes. One, I think that's really important, is exploration of triggers. So what happens to you physically and mentally when you come up against an emotional trigger, and in the moment of choice, you can either react and go into a lot of drama, or you can respond and move yourself into leadership. So we do a lot of trigger work, and then people love this because it's like everyone gets triggered. Everyone knows what it is,
Yeah.
But I also do a lot of work around the drama triangle of villain, victim, and hero. And that also that's payoff. When people realize, oh, I'm complaining all the time, so I guess you would call me a victim. Or I really want to make you pay for the mistakes that you've made, so I'm a villain. Or I'm trying to rescue you, and then I don't even pay attention to my own self, so I'm a hero. So we do a lot of work around that awareness and role play and self-discovery and other discovery, and you can tell I love it.
Yeah, well, I love those three categories. That's great. Do most people fall into one of those three?
Or a combo, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Or in 10 minutes or 30 seconds, you could be all three.
Okay. And is it the leader's responsibility to understand and somehow manage everyone else's triggers? Is that part of being...
It's awareness. And so part of the work that we do around this is then how do you inside your business, not us who would do external coaching, but inside your business, how do you coach? How do you ask the questions that you love, those open-ended questions? How do you ask those questions to help someone have their own awareness and make a choice to shift?
Okay. Yeah. And so what are some of the really cool kind of results you've seen with some of the clients that you've worked with in terms of their teams or their leaders?
Yeah, I have they have a group that was a family group, and they were, oh my gosh, they were going to kill each other at the beginning. It was
That's hard. Working with your family is a really difficult thing, and it's kind of amazing how many people do it without any training.
so they really did some really hard work, and they had to make some tough decisions about people who were working for them, who were like family, but were not supposed to be there anymore. So they made those tough decisions. They did work. They took the work down into some of the rest of their teams, and they took one division from losing money to beating all-time records this year.
Wow.
It was yeah.
Wow.
The Girl Scouts is a client of mine, and I have a heart for girls here. So the Girl Scouts in Chicago, the Chicago area, went also from in the red to about $1 million in the black.
Wow.
The time that we worked together, and I'm only going to take partial credit because I just pointed the way. They did the hard work.
But that work really did translate into some financial results that are, very concrete kind of results.
The most satisfying results that I see, and just personally for me, obviously I want the business to be successful, is when someone comes to me and says, I sat down and listened to my child for the first time in a year. Mm-hmm. My wife says, I'm really listening in a way that I've never listened before. Yeah. I was able to go home and show my family the drama triangle and admit what a big villain I have been, and we are working to rectify that. To me, that's
great.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, really beautiful. So we have a few minutes left and enough time for you to tell people how to get in touch with you, how to learn more. There's so much more. We really just touched on a few areas. So if you want to let people know how to get in touch with you and what you have coming up that people, programs and things like that people should know about.
Fantastic. So my website, as you can see underneath my name, is leadersinspired.com. So that would be a good place to start. Find me on LinkedIn, MP Knight on LinkedIn is where I am. And then if you want to send an email, I have a fantastic assistant named Mandy, who really takes care of me, talk about support. And if you want to reach out to support@leadersinspired.com. I'm happy to get back to you and answer any questions. Maybe if you want to set a strategy session, I'm happy to accommodate that. I'm kind of on a mission right now to meet as many heart-centered leaders out there as I possibly can.
That's
and not
great.
to sell them and, or anything like that, but just to connect with a like-minded community, which is why I was so delighted that you asked me to be on this show.
Well, thank you for coming on. This has been great. I also want to just mention before we go that you have offered a very generous gift. And so, Ryan, if you can put that link up there, people are more than welcome to go to, I believe it's limitfreelife.com/gift. Yeah. And they can put their name and email in there, and they will automatically be gifted with, I believe, your emotional intelligence quiz. Is that right?
The quiz is so much fun. Yeah. And then on the back end, you're going to get multiple days spread out over a period of time of some very powerful coaching, awareness and coaching that would support you based upon the results that you earn on taking the quiz.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, so take advantage of that, listeners, and go ahead and click that link and opt in and get Mary Pat's quiz. Get in touch with her if you have any questions. If you're in any level of leadership, whether you have your own business or you're working for an organization, she's got some wonderful ways to improve your experience and your knowledge base and just to make more money and do better at what you're doing and love it more. So, well, my headset is slipping off my head. I think it's time to close up. So, Mary Pat, thank you again. And everyone watching, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And we so appreciate you hopping onto the show on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock at ubngo.com. And if you would go to my podcast, Limit Free Life Podcast on iTunes and subscribe, or my YouTube channel, which is also Limit Free Life, and subscribe there. You can view the shows there. You can listen to the shows while you're running around, doing the treadmill, whatever, from iTunes. So thank you again, and have a wonderful week.